What's up, guys?
What's going on, guys? So, welcome back to the third ever episode of the podcast. This is the Aggressively Average podcast. If you guys noticed that a little bit of a difference, if you notice, this is on YouTube, and this also is on SoundCloud. So if you are listening on SoundCloud, be sure to check out the YouTube channel. It'll all be in the description and shit like that. This is also a special episode because it is the Sunday Fun Day episode, even though we're recording this on our Saturday night because because I have no life. So we're recording a podcast on Saturday night, and this is Sunday Fun Day. So here today, I have a guest speaker, the first ever guest speaker on the Aggressively Average podcast, and that guest is
Patrick.
So yeah, guys, this is my friend Patrick. So if you guys are watching on the YouTube version, you'll notice that there's a giant fucking manatee in the middle of the thing. There's a story behind that. I promise. It was a gift, pretty much, to sum it up. It was a gift. And the microphone's actually behind the manatee, so every time I talk really close, it looks like we're eating manatee ass. So I thought it was kind of funny. So if you guys didn't check out the last episode, be sure to check it out. I talked about how fucking dope table tennis actually is as a sport. And
that was actually a really good episode. I was in the wrong and confused it with ping pong.
Very common misconception that we get there. But yeah, so if you didn't catch that one, go ahead and check it out. But yeah. So for this one, we have a couple cool ideas. We sort of thought to make the theme like a sort of conspiracy theory type episode. And yeah, so just to start it off, which one do you want to start with?
We can start with any of them. I was just thinking it's ironic that, late Saturday night, got nothing to do it. We're just like about conspiracies with a gigantic ass manatee. Can't get over that thing.
Yeah. So we also have our cups of Joe.
Life is good.
Life is good. Life is good. They also say life is better at the top.
Okay.
You guys are seeing that on YouTube. Should clink glasses.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, there we go.
Bottoms down low. There we go.
There you go. Mine's still about to drink. Okay.
Yeah, it was fucking hot. All right. Yeah, so I want to apologize in advance of the audio, and this one is kind of bad. I only have one microphone, and it's not very omnidirectional. It's just like you talk straight into it. So the audio might be a little bit quiet. So in that case, just turn up your volume for this episode. So we know that there's a bunch of different conspiracy theories out there, like 9/11, JFK assassination, AIDS, and so yeah.
The most compelling one of all, the flat Earth theory.
Yeah, the flat Earth. That's a theory.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we sort of thought that maybe we could talk about some more low key ones, because the ones that Patrick knows a lot more than I do about conspiracy theories, and just starting it off, like when you were just like talking about it, I was just like, what the hell? I had no idea what you were talking about for like four of them. So let's just start off with those. Let's start off tell me what you know about like the Bohemian Grove. If you guys have never heard of that,
yes,
look it up, or Patrick will tell you about it.
Real quick, I should clarify, I'm not just some weird dude who likes knowing like secret facts about the government or anything like that. I'm just your typical paranoid Idahoan, and always gotta watch out for Big Brother. Yeah. So Bohemian Grove is a real thing. You can look it up on the internet. It's basically the world's elite come to the redwood forest on some sort of private property, and they have like, I don't know, what did you say, like 1,000 people there or something?
Dude,
like that.
Yeah, it was crazy. Videos. Yeah, we watched this video on YouTube, and there was literally just like hundreds of people in masks.
It was basically a rave for really rich people, but they were all wearing, costumes and stuff like that. And they worship a 20-foot stone owl, and the owl's supposed to represent like wisdom or like wealth, something like that. And some people, if you want to really dive into the conspiracy, think that they sacrifice a human person.
Oh, human people. I think that's crazy that just like even the top 1% of people, like, because there were like some big names thrown around in there, and I thought that was super interesting how it was just like, these people are super rich. Like, what else like do you really need? These they're big, high profile people, top 1% of like the world, and now, well, not the world, but like the United States, like they're
even world, like people come all over. Yeah. What I was thinking is it's kind of like a pretty much just a rich person fraternity.
Exactly. Yeah,
like
they
that,
just go ham. Yeah. It's crazy how they just like
stocks and stuff.
Yeah, but like they're wearing masks too while they were worshiping, and like I think they were like burning giant piles of brush around like the giant 20-foot owl, and it's just like, what the fuck? Like, why?
Yeah. Especially in the redwoods, which are kind of also weird because it's like the biggest trees in the world.
I guess that maybe to be sort of like to seem like low key, like to be like to be more like remote. Down. It's very, very remote, and that's interesting enough. So yeah, I'm not too much. We didn't really do too much like deep research into the whole thing, but like we just sort of just like we're scraping the top, you know, we're doing this motion, we're scraping the top.
Yeah. And the whole thing with conspiracies is we don't know it all, but we will.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't know it all, and that's just like, how do you know if even what this shit is saying? Like, how do you know if it's even real? It's just weird, you know, like, because people can say like, oh, you're just being paranoid, like the government's always watching you, like you just seem super paranoid, or like, but how do you know? Like you don't know whether or not that they're really not watching you, like the NSA, like even that thing with Amazon. Do you have an Alexa?
I don't.
So like Alexa, I saw this video on Facebook and I didn't believe it, and it was like, hey Alexa, like and then when it turns on, you ask, is the NSA listening in? Like listening to what they were saying, and then the Amazon Alexa would just turn off.
No way.
Yeah, it did.
That's
I saw that on
creepy.
Facebook, and then
That's
we
really
tried
creepy.
it, and like it responded, but there were certain things. I think Colton, one of my roommates, said something similar to that line. Just like, I was like, is the NSA keeping track of what we're listening to, or is the government listening? And then it just shut off,
That's
and we were
really
like,
weird.
yo,
That's
what?
really weird.
It was crazy, dude. It was super creepy.
Maybe they like programmed it to do that. I just like, part of me hopes and wishes that the government just had like better things to do
Than just to listen to what we do and
listen
say.
to what we do and like be in everybody's life. What I think is really weird is like with like the new iPhone, in order to unlock it you have to like
The
mix
facial
your
recognition,
face.
facial
which is-
recognition.
I actually said that originally about the whole Snapchat thing, doing like the
Mhm.
filters of your face, like recognizing it. But the fact that you have to unlock your phone with your face, it's pretty weird.
Mhm.
I guess it's super specific. Like you could be like wearing a scarf and you'd still do it. But if somebody was also wearing a scarf that kind of looked like you, it doesn't work.
Yeah, because there was also thumbprints too. Think
Yeah,
about that. Your
yeah,
fingerprint.
yeah.
Like they now
They have everything.
like everyone who has an iPhone or even any new like next gen type phone, like the Note, like the new Note 8, like the Samsung Galaxy, like all of them do like a thumb recognition.
Yep.
And now like your thumbprint is now logged
Yeah,
in their
yeah, that's
system,
right.
and it's just like,
Now your
whoa.
faces.
Now your faces too. I heard the iPhones though isn't nearly as good as the like the Samsung ones, but because I watched a video, like a review, like if you're wearing sunglasses or something like that, like
Oh really?
it just doesn't work nearly as well.
I saw a thing where it was like two identical twins were testing it out and it didn't work for like
Really?
one of them, and like they like put on like masks or like sunglasses or like a hat or something like that, and it still didn't recognize them.
That's fucking crazy. It's just like
Yeah.
no two people. No, like I guess like sort of like no two people are alike. Obviously, like your thumbprint. I guess your face too.
Yeah.
That's weird. Like, what sort of algorithm does that use?
Yeah, from what I saw, like the camera, it like when you have it, it like sends out a whole bunch of like little like dots over your
Mhm.
face, and I guess it's just like so close together that any minute differences kind of get pointed out to the system.
Oh yeah, because don't you have to like move your like head in
Yeah.
like a full like 360 range of motion? Because that way, like if you have your phone and you're like this, it
Mhm.
unlocks, or like you have your head
Exactly,
turned
yeah.
or whatever, it like totally unlocks. This turned real techie real
Yeah.
quick.
Anyways, this is Tech Insider with Eric and Pat.
This
you
is the
know.
aggressively average tech review.
Apple review.
Yeah, Apple review. By the way, buy your iPhone next. No, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
I'm thinking that the iPhone 12, you have to like cut off like a little snippet of your hair to unlock it.
You're just, like,
and, yeah.
Drop it on there and just dissolves. You're just like, dude. Reminds you of that SpongeBob where he drops like the kelp onto his computer.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, this took a turn, so we're gonna get right back into it. We want to talk about a Netflix documentary that actually Patrick showed my roommate, and then I caught on to it. It's about the Russians during the Olympics. I think it was since 2008.
Who knows?
I think it was. I don't know. Yeah, exactly.
That's when it started, you know.
That's when they started to catch on. It was about doping in the Olympics. The Netflix documentary is called Icarus. So if you want to watch it, go ahead and check it out. But yeah, it's about doping and how they like. There's one scientist that was able to like beat the system of the fake piss.
Yeah.
And like so pretty much athletes who were just doped out of their minds would like I want to start back over. So like the original series is about like a guy who's like trying to bike like crazy hard, like the Tour de France type biking, like insane. And he didn't, I think he placed like 19th or 20th overall, and then he was like, how do I get better? He's like, I'm gonna try doping and then like see if I do better. And then he ended up actually doing worse, and he was like, what the hell, like what's going on? And then somehow he got into contact with the Russian guy who was like doping for the entire Russians, who was like keeping the Olympic dirty piss thing low key. And so he got into contact with him, and then they started talking more, and like the Russian government ended up like turning against him, sort of, because they found out that he was like feeding the U.S. like information and like sort of like ratting them out, but saving his own ass. And it was the part that really like stuck with me is when he, total spoiler alert, when he flew to L.A. I think it was, when he was like staying in the United States, and he was pretty much on the Russia shit list. Like he was getting ready to like, if he would go back to Russia, he'd probably be killed.
Oh yeah.
And that just blows my mind how powerful like even Putin is, because like he was totally just like covering up the whole thing. Like it's really crazy how like how much power those world leaders have.
Well, like, because when he was in Los Angeles, he saw in the news that the guy who was also, like, he was, like, an executive for helping the Russian state-sponsored doping program, got killed by, like, a heart attack.
Yeah,
it
was a heart attack,
age, and he was like, no.
There was no signs of,
Yeah, they whacked him. But, yeah, I also thought it was interesting how they had to devise a way to break into those, like, seal-proof capsules. You know, it just goes so deep, and, you know, I bet that Russia is not the only one who does a state-sponsored doping program. I bet we also do some of that.
I wouldn't be surprised, because like if you watch like the clips from the Olympics and you look at their arms and they're just shredded, like they're like 0% body fat, and it's just like, how would you do that naturally? It doesn't even look natural. So like, how did you? I don't know how they got away with it. And I think that's really crazy. So the whole documentary in and of itself is very, very interesting. If you ever have like, I think it's like 2 hours long or something like that.
It's kind of longer. Yeah.
It's like 2.5 hours, I think. I don't know. I don't actually know how long it is. I only caught like an excerpt of it, if I'm honest. I caught like an hour. But yeah, definitely check that out. I thought the entire documentary was pretty good, pretty well put together. What do you think about it? I
thought it was really good. I mean, the first time I ever heard about it, I was actually in Times Square at night, and it was just like the big billboard of it. And I was like, oh, go check it out. And it's kind of like a weird topic. Like, it's something like when somebody's like, hey, like, what do you want to watch? It's like, oh, like I want to like know about the Russian state doping program. So, but it was really interesting because I felt like that was one of the few conspiracy documentaries, because it seems like with most conspiracy documentaries, Bigfoot, aliens, they always get so close and then never find anything. But with this one, it goes back and back and back and back, and just like it's so deep and so rooted that it actually, you know, makes for some pretty good content.
Because I remember they also show like files from like the CIA, I think, and they actually show like the legit documentary. So you're just like, wow, like this has some credibility to it.
Yeah.
But overall, like I said, really good documentary.
Yeah, one of my favorite ones I've seen as of lately.
Yeah, definitely. Another interesting sort of conspiracy that we were talking about earlier. We were just like going through a list of different documentaries, different list of different conspiracy theories that we sort of want to talk about, but sort of ones that are like I said, more well known, like not well known, but like sort of. Another one we want to talk about is MKUltra. So pretty much you wanna.
I only know the basis pretty much as much as, you know, anybody knows. Basically, the CIA was trying to figure out how to work with mind control during the Cold War era, and so we're testing different things like stress on the mind, and they like LSD. That's actually how LSD became a thing.
Because it's lab made. It's lab made.
It seemed, from what I know, it seems like a kind of an extenuation off Operation Paperclip, but with more like a psychological level.
I just read about Operation Paperclip. Yeah.
Back, I think in like the 1800s, they were working with a cure for syphilis, and they had a group of really poor African Americans, and they were kind of in a more rural area, and they gave them what it was told like a treatment for the syphilis, but what they're really doing was giving it to them, giving them the actual living syphilis virus, bacteria, I don't know,
microbacteria, I guess,
microbe, and was infecting with them, and then seeing how it would affect the populations within the group, and then they were totally outed. And that's like 100% fact. That's not conspiracy. That's like a real thing that you can look up.
Yeah. Something that's also like cool is like we were just talking about was AIDS. How like there's a theory that like AIDS was created to help like rid the world of like homosexuals and stuff like that. And I think that like even nowadays is like not acceptable, obviously. But yeah, AIDS was supposedly, this is one of the theories, was made in a lab made by the CIA or like whatever government form of the government to get rid of gays and stuff like that, or just get rid of certain types of people.
Or like they have the HIV cure already, and they just haven't released it because of big pharma, stuff like that. And I could see that definitely.
Even like cures for cancer and stuff like that. Like Well, no, I don't want to target them, but like I'm saying the like big pharmaceutical companies. I feel like there's definitely a cure, like for cancer. I feel like there's a definite cure for different forms of cancer.
Yeah, different forms of cancer. The only thing about cancer is it's such a complex disease.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's so many different variables with everything. Like the fact that it comes back, and this is actually a real conspiracy theory. They found out like a year or two ago that chemotherapy absolutely does not work.
Yeah,
does not work. And but they keep telling people to do it. People still do it today.
Mm-hmm. So. And it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
It's like seriously the most like expensive disease to like treat.
If you did chemotherapy on somebody who didn't have cancer, I think they would probably have cancer after that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so
yeah.
bad.
Yeah. That's absolutely crazy in itself. But what other theories? Oh, fluoride. We also want to talk about like fluoride in water, cuz if you guys don't know, I guess apparently I didn't even know. Fluoride in your water, like you get at the dentist, like you were saying, to it like whitens your teeth, but it's also linked. There's a theory that it's linked to like lower IQ, like it lowers your IQ and like makes you dumber essentially.
Yeah. Just to be clear, like a lot of people I feel like might confuse like this with kind of like the whole vaccine thing. Mm-hmm. Vaccines are safe and real.
Yeah,
get vaccinated.
Yeah. Vaccinate yourself.
There's been lots of studies that fluoride is actually really, really bad for you, and I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, but I'm 90% sure that actually Great Britain does not fluoride their water. Really? But we do. And a lot of people, it is good for your teeth and all that stuff, but it does lead to calcification of your pineal gland in your brain, which I don't know if you guys know is the like center where you creatively think and dream and all that stuff. So basically one could connect the dots essentially that it's pretty much dumbing us down to be more sheep-like. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
It sort of reminds me of like chemtrails, like sort of. I mean, not really, but like it sort of like makes you like a sheep. It's sort of like I don't know. I don't know how much to add on that. I just think it's interesting.
Do you think that they would like do that? Like, why would they want to like a more like why would they want people that they could easily control? Like, what are they really gaining from that? From I don't know.
Yeah, like even with like I was just saying chemtrails, like you know those giant white clouds that go through when planes are flying by, like the long white clouds that are like very thin. When you look up in the sky, supposedly those are chemtrails started in I think the 60s. Do you know? I don't know. I kind of want to look it up, but yeah. So they were pretty much a way of like mind control. It was like a way of influencing your way of thinking to make it like. I don't know, like what would you have to gain from that?
I was almost thinking like they were trying to like again big pharma. It always comes back to big pharma. A lot of these conspiracies do, but like make people sick to go get medicines and they can test out. Like if we were to get into another war, that like a large scale war that we could theoretically chemtrail a different country, get them sick. We see what works, what doesn't work, etc.
That's interesting. I just had a really good topic that was linked to mind control. Oh, the human test files from like MKULTRA and stuff like that are all visible. Like you can find them all online, and I think that's crazy. You just should read like how much shady stuff the CIA has done. Also, we were talking about right before this that you can find them on the deep web, and that's sort of like I talked about the deep web in the last episode of the podcast, but pretty much like they're all human testing files and stuff like that have all been released on the internet, and holy crap, man! Like that stuff will make you like really
keep you up at night.
Yeah, like stuff that happens in third world countries, like under the radar, will really. Oh, it's crazy, man! It's crazy. What do you think about that?
I personally like I've never been on the dark web, but I know you can see all the files that there are, and like I was actually kind of re-looking over a list, and I was kind of thinking, all these things are technically conspiracy theories, but they're all like they have some element of truth. Like you can find pictures of Bohemian Grove, you can find test files on MKUltra, you can find studies on fluoride toxicity, and then obviously Icarus. That's a huge documentary over it. So it's to like how conspiracy do we really want to get into it? I feel is the main question, because is the government really out there to get us? Mm-hmm. I hope not, but
yeah, they're protecting our safety. Yeah. They're like trying to for the better of the American people.
Exactly. Maybe my intelligence is just so low because of all this fluoride that I can't process why they would do that.
Yo, man, we're gonna go do fluoride later. You down?
We're gonna snort some fluoride, get our teeth white.
Another thing that Colton was telling me about was how many wars that we have unnecessarily brought ourselves into. Like I can't think of any, like the wars that we're in right now that are like there's no reason for us to like because most of the time you go to war for to protect the safety of the United States, right? Like, that's the main reason, to defend your country.
Idealist, but yeah.
Like, that's, like, the basic premise behind going to war.
Yeah.
And, like, I think he was telling me about, like, the wars that we're in right now, like, in the Middle East and stuff like that. Like, we didn't have to, send our troops in, It's
kind of a continuation for, I mean, the worst thing that you can do in history is proven time and time again is try to establish a democracy on people who do not want or adhere to a democracy.
Yeah, and I feel like that's sort of what the world's trying to...
Or even like us getting into war, like it seems like with like the war over in the Middle East and then Vietnam is all started with these red flag operations. Like Roosevelt knew that the Japanese were kind of getting up there in the Pacific, and so he put all of naval ships at Pearl Harbor. Pretty much didn't bomb them specifically, but set them up for failure essentially to kind of help us pull us into the war essentially. Then 9/11 type thing, I'm not gonna get started on that, but it's just
jet fuel can't melt steel beams, guys.
Yeah, that's true.
There was like this joke we were watching some comedian, we were listening to it, and this might get super offensive, but it was like when the first tower got bombed. Imagine being in the second tower, looking at that first tower, and being like, "Holy shit!" And then you, in the back of your mind, you're like, "Thank God that wasn't me."
Jeez, that's pretty bad actually.
That was a bad one. Because then, like, afterwards...
I mean, but none of them can really know, It's like 2, 1,
One, you're like, fuck, no. But then you're like, in the back of your mind, you're like, thank God that wasn't me.
If there's a really good documentary you guys want on conspiracy theories, watch Zeitgeist. Have you seen Zeitgeist?
It's on Netflix?
Yeah.
Check it out.
A really good one, yeah. After this, let's watch it. It's a really good one. They talk about 9/11. They talk about world currency, which is another really big one. I mean, you can point out several different things that it's like kind of weird with that. And then the last one is religion, centralized religion. It's all reincarnated to fit the time of needs of a certain people at that time.
I think I've always had, like, in the back of my mind, my own sort of, like, conspiracy theory about dying. Like, this might get kind of dark, but, like...
Let's get deep here.
Yeah, okay, so, like, my thought has always been, like, when you die... First of all, the thought of, like... Okay, so, like, if you're religious or not, even if you're not, like... I grew up Christian, which, I mean, I'm not trying to impose any views or anything like that. Like, I mean, I'm not very religious anymore, but, like, they say that you either go to heaven or hell forever.
Yeah.
Like, try to, like, picture forever.
Yeah.
Like, if you think your life is a long time, think about forever. And, like when I was a kid, I used to think about how long forever would be if I died. And that used to scare the shit out of me.
I didn't know that young Eric was such a philosopher.
This has, like, been, like, the only cool thing. But yeah, dude, like,
isn't it weird? Yeah, like large
quantify it forever.
Large quantities of time. It seems like size is hard. Like, whether that's the quote unquote, it doesn't really make sense. The size or length of duration of time. Like, I remember being 11 years old and being like, it's gonna be forever till I drive.
Or
till I turn 18, till I'm an adult, and then, like, next thing you know, I'm voting, I'm driving, smoking cigs and driving. It's crazy. But, like, size. So, like, if you think about, like, the celestial bodies in space. Massive, absolutely massive. Like
the world, there's, like, the planets and stuff.
Yeah, like there's
the world's not even that big of a planet either.
No, it's tiny, and like our sun is even that big of a sun. It's like an average sized star. But so it just gets big when you try to think of a star that's 100,000 times bigger than our own, and we can't even comprehend how big ours is compared to Earth. That's hard. And then, like, same thing with time. Forever. It's hard to think about.
Like. To touch on that, like, even driving 6 hours of time, like 300 miles, like, you're driving on a highway. Like, I'm thinking of so our college is going through Thanksgiving break right now. So all of our friends are, like, driving home. And the most common place to go from where we go to school is to Boise, which is about 6 hours away. And even that drive is just like, fuck, this is so far.
Yeah.
Like, imagine 300 miles. But then imagine, like, coast to coast of even the U.S. And then even from here to, like, somewhere on the other side of the world, like Russia or, like, Japan or somewhere that, like, just to quantify that amount of, like, I guess this is the new form for distance, but to quantify that amount of distance and then think how small our world is, it's just
definitely. And, like, when we're talking about, like, trying to find life on other planets like that, and it's like,
do you believe in, like, there's definitely
life. You can look at, like, the Drake equation. Neil deGrasse Tyson kind of touches on a lot of interesting things. He thinks that we're kind of late to the whole alien party, if you will, as far as intelligence goes. He thinks that all of them have essentially died out, or we're just so far away from everything that we can contact anyways. Which brings me to my point of, we think about planets that have life, habitable life, and it's like, oh yeah, it's only 25 light years away.
That's only 25 light years, yeah.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. It's kind of a redundant thought when you think about space.
What's like, yeah, dude, space is fucking crazy, bro. But like, space is literally like, it's so huge, and it's again kind of scary, like to think about how tiny we are. Like the way I sort of think about Earth, an entire like solar system or whatever, like an entire like the universe, is I like to think of like a fruit or something, and then like if you get like a needle and like poke it into the fruit, that little dot is like the size of the Earth and relative to the whole system. Like even that's sort of the way I think, or even smaller. Yeah. And just to think that on a much greater scale is like, how do you there's no way, like we were just talking about, you can't grasp, like you can't get a physical grasp. It's like the same thing with like, large numbers. Like if I told you to write out like 14 centillion, like, what?
Yeah. You can't,
Sort of. It's crazy. But yeah, I didn't come back to that. The forever thing.
Oh yeah.
So like
tangents.
Yeah. Forever. Like I used to be so scared. I'd keep myself up at night thinking forever is a long time, and where was I going with it? I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I don't remember now.
It's gonna come back to you as soon as you shut it out.
Yeah, exactly. But
okay, so we're talking about religion, remember? And you're talking about how like you were young philosopher Eric,
young 6-year-old philosopher.
Yeah, you're thinking about heaven and hell being forever, and then you were going on.
Damn it! What was I talking about? I don't know. This happened in the first episode. You remember?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll come back to it. And I promise we're gonna come back to it.
I feel like this is getting really deep. Should we talk about something that's less deep?
Let's bring up the topic, or let's bring up the mood.
The mood, yeah. So what do you want to talk about?
So how was your day?
I worked a lot. I want to kill myself. No, I'm just kidding. wrong area.
But yeah, guys, if Thanksgiving break is right around the corner for us, it's gonna be this Thursday, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why I always ask what day.
It's always the third.
It's always the third Thursday in November, right?
Yeah.
Because then you have Black Friday and stuff like that.
But Christmas town.
Yeah, if you celebrate Thanksgiving, if you're in the U.S. or if you're not in the U.S., stuff your face. That sort of reminds me. I want to talk about like Friendsgiving. That'll bring up the mood. That'll bring up the mood. Friendsgiving. So I don't know if a lot of these listeners are from the U.S. or maybe someday there's not. So we celebrate Thanksgiving, and sometimes if you can't go home, like we're getting to the age, like I feel like once you're like beginning to middle 20s and you start to like the smaller holidays, you sort of start to have with your friends, you know what I mean? Yeah. Except for the big ones like Christmas. You can't always make it home. Like sometimes there's work. So we do like a Friendsgiving. I'm not doing a Friendsgiving this year actually, but where pretty much everyone gets together and you pretty much make a Thanksgiving that you'd have at home, but with your friends. Yeah. And that's, I don't know. I was thinking about this in my car the other day. I was like, what age do you start doing those sort of things like on your own? Like a Friendsgiving? Like when's the appropriate age?
Eventually, I guess theoretically, like Friendsgiving or like an actual like Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about like, what age do you start like
celebrating like real holidays or like holidays with friends?
Yeah, like celebrating holidays with your friends instead of like.
I guess like as soon as you get into like move out, essentially. I guess.
Like when you turn 18, I guess.
If you don't live in,
I guess there's no real age. No requirement. But
although a cool story, kind of to relate to that I think might be kind of interesting for everybody to hear is, remember the time when we had Thanksgiving at Fitsum's?
Yeah. So one of our friends, who's in my fraternity, he's in my frat, not yours, but yeah, he's in my fraternity, and we both couldn't make it home last year for Thanksgiving. We both had to work, so that friend is from the town where we go to college in, so he's like, come meet with our family, or his family.
For some reason we both were stuck in Moscow.
Yeah, we were both stuck in Moscow. So yeah, I think I had work like the day before and the day after, so I wasn't gonna go home, drive 6 hours in the night.
And it was I was just gonna say it was like a little bit like of a culture shock because Fitsum's family is from Ethiopia. Yeah. And so I was a little bit kind of nervous because I feel like I might have to watch my P's and Q's because I don't know everything. And so when we went over there, but they just treated us like family, and it was actually probably one of my more memorable Thanksgivings I've had. Because Eric was there, and Fitsum, and it was a totally traditional like
turkey stuffing, the works.
that you might think. There was no Ethiopian vibe. It was just like total. I don't know if they did that for us, but it was it was just like it was really cool because his parents are also both really really smart. So
yeah, I think his dad's a chemical engineer.
Yeah,
and he teaches at the university that we go to. So his dad's like very smart. I don't know what his mom does, but she's probably really smart too.
She seems smart. Yeah.
Yeah, they seem really smart too. But yeah, so we ate there, and I remember. Yeah, it is pretty memorable, and I think about it. But I talked to his dad for like 30 minutes, like just me and him just talking about like stocks and like sort of like because I talked to him about chemistry because he's a chemical engineer, so obviously he was pretty interested in chemistry and very smart guy, very knowledgeable guy.
Yeah, it just seemed like one thing about Fitzum's dad. He like for everybody at the table, he always had like he was interested in something about you that kind of like made you come out of your shell, like you're So it wasn't like it could have been awkward if they were like, oh, we're having Thanksgiving with people we don't know, but because he was like, oh, tell me about yourself. Then once we told him something he was interested in about, I don't know, he like
pick your brain a little bit. He like pick your brain. Those type of people are like the best type of people to have conversations with because like they just sort of keep it going. Yeah, because there was like from the moment we sat down, like there was like no silence. No, there was always just like the conversation kept going and like. I sort of kind of want to replicate that same sort of style with this podcast and sort of interesting. And
then I think after that we helped Fitzum get a TV and then we got drunk at his house. Or his apartment.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
And then we just played.
I also have a really good memory. I should clarify that. Like, it's almost a bad thing that my memory is so good because I'll remember things about people that they don't remember telling me. So they'll be like, how do you know that?
I have that.
How do you know that about me? Do you stalk me? No, you told me it. I'm not so sure. And it's like, okay.
I'm the type of person that he's describing. I was literally talking to someone at work. I was literally like, it's not like I don't pay attention in conversations, but like maybe my brain is just somewhere else when we're talking, to where like we'll have this conversation and then like 2 weeks later you'll quote the conversation or something that was funny, and I would just be like, what? Or like in a year, you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm just like, I have no idea what you're talking about, and it's like I find like it's starting to become worse and worse. I think I have Alzheimer's.
Oh,
as a young age.
I mean, there's a whole they think that with attention span getting shorter because everything's so like quick,
give me in the now,
fast,
the millennial thing.
And so it's kind of hard to have a meaningful conversation for more than like 10 seconds. Mm-hmm. Which brings me back to what were you thinking about with the time thing?
Like quantifying like time, or
you were that was a tangent you were still thinking about. You didn't remember young philosopher Eric.
I can't think of it. It's still not coming back to me if I'm honest. Something we could also address is like just like we were talking about like millennials. I think the millennial stigma sucks. I don't think it's true.
I disagree.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I'm personally like a romantic, so when I meet Mrs. Right, I would like to think that we meet somewhere cool. But it seems like the only place to meet women these days, and this is going to be kind of weird, I'm diving into my personal life. The only way to meet women
getting real personal on the pod.
2017 is if you're drunk at a party somewhere, socially, like that, or like Tinder or something like that. You can't go to a grocery store and see
it's not like How I Met Your Mother or something like that.
You can't go to the grocery store and be like some girl's picking out like your favorite brand of cereal and you're like,
oh my god,
I also love Cinnamon Life, and she's like, what the fuck, don't talk to me.
Yes,
this is Winco, get the fuck out of here. It's like, oh, sorry.
Dude, I had that mindset coming to college because I just finished How I Met Your Mother like right when I graduated high school, and I was like, first week of college, gonna meet my wife. And I was like, it's gonna be perfect, I can't wait.
That's that rural Idaho speaking with you. Like, yes. I don't have to be with these farm animals anymore.
We both grew up. How was the population of your hometown?
I don't remember population, but my graduating class for high school, 15 kids, I think.
Damn, yeah, mine was like 140. Yeah. We were like a 4A high school. I don't know how if like anywhere else in the U.S. uses that. I know a lot of like high schools in the U.S. use like the A system. I don't understand it at all, but like we were a 4A school. What were you guys?
1A Division 2. So there's like 1A, which is really small, obviously, and then there's 1A Division 2, which is like extra small. To be regular 1A, your high school had to have greater than 100 kids. And my school was K through 12, did not have greater than
K through 12,
and did not have 100 kids. Yeah,
that is insane. Because like our school was like, it used to be weird because like most high schools nowadays go 9 through 12 in high school. And like 7th and 8th junior high, the stereotype is 9 through 12 high school, right? Our junior high was 7th, 8th, and 9th, I think.
Okay.
So every year, this was weird. Right before I went to high school. So I have 2 older siblings, and like when my sister was going through school, she's 5 years older than me. When she was going through high school, they used to do a freshman farewell, to where like they would just all get together and just like say farewell while they leave the junior high. And it's sort of weird. Like, I don't know how they structure schools. Or like, I don't know. I think it's interesting.
Is there people? I actually know there is. So I'm gonna. you know, like when you go to like high school, or not high school, but okay. Have you gone to? So you're in college. We're both in college.
Have you gone to college before?
Yeah. So we're in college, and you know what's really weird is when you see people that you knew in elementary school.
Yeah.
Who are like basically a completely different person, but also have like some like weird sort of like similarities as third grade you and them.
Like you sort of like you met in like at a really young age, at like 6 years old or whatever, 7 years. How old are you in third grade? Like 8?
8, 9.
8? I don't know. And you like relate over something like skateboarding or whatever, and then like now you're in college like 10 years later, 12 years later, and now you're just like skateboarding's cool.
Yeah.
I think that's crazy.
One of my best friends, I'll name him in case he listens to this. Rory Butcher.
Shout out to Rory.
He's a beta now. But yeah, like so I was going through Rush up at the university, and the Rush group's kind of weird because they like put you in a whole like a random group of people, and you go and tour each house. Then the next day you get to go to whatever house caught your eye or whatever you get along with. And I was there, and I was talking to somebody, and then I heard this voice that was really, really, really familiar. And I look over, and it's this guy named Rory, and I was like, "Holy fuck! Like, you were my best friend in first grade. I have not seen you since." But it doesn't matter. He's too cool for me because he's a beta.
Yeah.
So
we're not throwing shade.
I'm throwing shade.
But yeah, dude, I always think that's like, I have pictures with friends like when I was in like 4th grade. I have one specifically. If this guy ever listens to this podcast, find a way to contact me because this is insane. There was this guy named John. Don't know his last name.
I'll say that's
not friends on Facebook. I don't know anything about the guy nowadays. But I have a picture of me and him like together, and I remember a bunch of memories with him of like going to his birthday party, and we went to like a pool. We went to you know that place in Boise that's like the it's like a fun. It's not like Boondocks or Wazoo or whatever.
Oh, dude, are you talking about Planet Kid?
Planet Kid, dude, yeah. Planet Kid was so much fun.
I love Planet Kid. You know, it's a good birthday if you can take there.
Yeah, dude. So we went to Planet Kid together. Like, this guy was my bro, dude. This was my homie. I'd go over there every Thursday and hang out with him. Like, our moms were friends. Like, we were friends. Now and then, like, I don't know what happened. I think he moved away in early elementary school, and now just like.
Do you ever ask your mom if she knows his mom?
Like, if they still have contact?
Maybe. That'd or like friends on Facebook. Your mom has Facebook?
Yeah, my mom has Facebook. That'd be crazy.
Also, I just realized that we kind of got on a tangent about friends, but millennials. I think millennials have a bad rap. He likes millennials. I think millennials have a bad rap because millennials.
Like, do you agree with the rap, even if like it's a bad rap?
To an extent. That's
the thing. I don't agree with it.
I'm gonna say mostly I agree that millennials have a bad rap because one, like most millennials I meet are shallow. They're all like, maybe it's just like the scene in college right now, but they're shallow. All they care about is care about only doing drugs and like.
How cool you are at your party.
Yeah, how cool you are at your party, what you wear, all that kind of stuff. And I feel like if you go back to like the 70s or 80s, people would like actually like bond over stuff. Like there's like, it was more like, in a good way, it was kind of more cliquey. Like if you had like a radio hobby or like building something with like electronics, you could meet people and then do that on the weekend. But if you don't like, if you're not like socially involved, like recreationally as far as like drugs or like drinking or like,
it's hard to get people to open up.
It's hard to like meet people unless you like sit by somebody in class and like, my name's Patrick. Do you want to be my friend?
Do you like building stuff? I like building stuff. And the other guy's like, yeah, I like it. Do you want to hang out?
So why do you think millennials don't have a bad rap? But last thing I'm gonna say, millennials are the most educated generation because I think 1 in 4 of us go to school, which is like
25% attend like a formal education. I think that like they get a bad rep, but I feel like it's sort of half for the right reason. Like I understand with just talking about like cell phones, like we talked about technology earlier. Like the thing that really bothers me about millennials that like I'll kind of have to give to you is when you're hanging out with someone and like you're hanging out. I'm notorious for doing this. I do this myself and it sucks, but like the conversation may be slowing down and then you pull out your phone and then everyone goes silent for the next like 20 minutes. It's just like, what?
Yeah.
Because after you're done scrolling, you're like, or you're done replying to one text, everyone's just scrolling on your phone and you're just like, come on, dude. Like, let's keep talking. So that's one thing that I really don't like about millennials. But I feel like.
So that kind of goes into like the whole shallow thing.
It kind of goes into the most shallow thing. Like, who are you talking to? Like, Does your phone have a million notifications when you pull down, like, if you pop on your lock screen? Yeah, like, just like, who the fuck cares, dude? Like, but the good thing, I feel like millennials as a whole have become very, like, we want it now, which is bad, but I feel like we're the more hardworking type.
You really?
I think so, because I feel like, at least the people that I know, like, if they have a passion towards doing something, like, even, like, this podcast, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but, like,
here we go.
I thought of this podcast for, like, a week, and then I bought the microphone, and now I'm doing it. So I feel like on top of the other stuff that, you know, I'm doing on my plate, I can toot my own horn, but, like, I just sort of think that, like, if you want something, you're going to go get it. You know what I mean? I don't think it's much of a, I'm going to sit on this idea. It's like, I have this idea, I have this vision, it's go time, you know? I feel like a lot of millennials share that same view.
Yeah. I think maybe that's where, like, it kind of gets lost in translation for some of those older generations, is because
they're just like, you guys are so impatient.
You guys want it now, but we live in an era where it's easier to get it now. And when we have it now, we're able to do things that are more catered to what we want to do, type of thing.
Like, even this microphone.
Yeah, like, if we didn't live in this age, who knows, like, how long it would take you to get, like, a microphone. Like, maybe if you'd have to go, if it was, like, back in, like, the 90s and you're like, I want this type of microphone, you would go either fill out a catalog, wait 3 to 6 weeks for it to come.
Yeah, find it in a magazine.
Or go to your local radio shop and be like, hey, I want this model. Like, we'll order it, we'll call you,
It's just like a hassle. It's like a 4-week long. Now I just bought it on Amazon.
He
waited like 2 days.
And
waited like 2 days for it, and then it was here.
Yeah.
And then hence episode 1. But I don't know. Millennials as a whole, I feel like there's like a bad rep, but I feel like it can get better.
I think so. I think that, like, when people talk bad about millennials, it's like most of us are only like 22 or something. Like, we haven't done anything yet. Like,
yeah, there's nothing you can't show. Like,
the only thing we really can show is that most of us are in school, which is, no one can argue that's bad.
No, you can't argue about being in college.
Yeah.
Even though we're both gonna end 5th years.
Yeah, we're gonna be 5th years, but we're also both doing cool majors. Do they know what your major is?
No. So I was a chemistry major for 2 years, my freshman sophomore year, and then I realized, dude, if you guys have ever taken any chemistry classes, you know that Organic 1 is hell of a class. It's like one of the hardest STEM classes, at least at our university. It was like the most failed class. And I took Organic 1.
What class is that? Oh, like, what chemistry? Like, what's the number on it?
Chem
277?
277 is a lab. 273. 275? 275, I think. So, yeah, that's Organic 1, 275. And I realized at the end of that course, I was just like, this sucks. I got like a D in the class, which was still passing. And that was that point where I started to break a little bit. And I was like, this really isn't my...
Is that with the curve?
Yeah, that was with the curve.
Oh, my God.
I got destroyed in that class.
Dang.
Chem 2 I took, and then I got a C. And like, the chemistry slowly started to go downhill as I got up. But yeah, that reminds me. So so I finished Organic 2, and then I realized that, like, this isn't for me. And I was sitting in PChem. I took PChem the fall because over the summer, I was away from it because I was in Alaska, and I sort of it was out of my mind. So I was like, okay, I like this. You know what I mean? And then I got back and I was like, fuck this, I'm changing. Yeah. But why'd you change?
Okay, so first of all, I've changed my major way too many fucking times. Really quick intro. I started off in college as a biology chemistry major. Then, college happened, and I was like, I'm gonna be like more liberal. I'm gonna be a psychology major. Realized that, and I like missed the sciences so much. I was like, this is all like opinion based. Like, no disrespect to psychology at all. Just like, I like more concrete facts. A lot of psychology is gray, situational.
It's like sort of like up to you how you interpret it.
Yeah, or it's up to the person. It's This is one of my quotes that I've quoted. Humans are the infinite variable. Okay.
Some Ty Lopez for you guys.
And then
knowledge.
Look how loud that is on the thing. Just like
knowledge.
I switched to civil engineering. That was pretty. I switched to biochemistry after psychology, and I liked that, but I hate this one teacher. I'm gonna throw shade. Mary Oswald is the worst teacher at the University of Idaho. But anyways, so don't throw shade. Then after that, I went to civil engineering, and then I went to physics. Physics was really hard, but I didn't devote enough of my time to it, although that's what I really liked. And so after that, I went to criminology because I was like, I'm also
changes. Is that like 5 now? Jeez.
Who's keeping track?
That's impressive, yeah.
It's so and then impressive. After that, so technically right now I'm a sociology major with an emphasis on criminology, which, again, back to that whole gray thing. I hate it. I'm going to go back to physics, be a 5th year, Call it good.
Fuck it. if it works, right? I mean, like, it just takes, because they always, I did a lot of research with, I'm very into, like, being an entrepreneur. I don't like hearing to a boss. I like being my own boss, setting my own schedule. So I don't like, I started really thinking about if I really even wanted a formal education. I really went into, like, a gray sort of, like, is this college thing really right for me? You
was
know
this
what I mean?
in Alaska?
This was, like, within the past month.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So this was right before I made the change to computer science. And I was listening to a lot of, like, entrepreneurs. Very, if you guys know who Gary Vaynerchuk is, he's a very, like it's kind of vague, you know. There's plenty of videos, like, roasting these type of people, but they're like, you can do it, or it says, like, author, entrepreneur. It's like, of what? You know, they're really vague, but they give some good material, you know. Yeah. And then they were talking about formal education, and it was just like, it was sort of like the controversy of, are you only in school to impress your parents, or are you in school because that's what you want to do? And I sort of had, like, a breakdown. I was like, shit, like, do I really want to do this? And then, because dropping out of school is a pretty big decision, you know?
It's a huge decision.
It's a huge decision, because that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
And I just keep coming back to, like, I'm only 20, like, we're young, like, we have some time to, like...
It's hard to balance, because, like, we want, like, the fraternal aspect of it, like, because we're both in fraternities, and we see, like, the social side of that, and they're like, yeah, that's, like, a ton of fun, but come Monday morning, and, you know, we're an 8:30 lecture, we're not, you know, feeling the major all of a sudden, you know, and then you're like, we'll go back and forth, so, you know.
I agree with that. And there's always times where you're just, the weekends are, you live for the weekends, because you're just like, I'm going to go get drunk with my friends, or, like, I'm going to go do some really stupid, socialize with people, you know. It's like where you can really, it's the outside of the grind of the week, and then that grind hits you, and you're like...
What do you think, so, like, what was it about chemistry specifically that made you, like, want to change? It just wasn't your cup of tea, or, like...
I think...
Cup of coffee?
The most, like, memorable thing I can remember is a cup of coffee. It was a good pun.
Yeah, puns.
But
Punny.
The best thing I can remember when I thought about OChem 2 is we had a test, and then 3 weeks later, or I think it was 2 weeks later, we had another test, but it was in between that time frame, we had to memorize 96 or 90-something reactions, which is typical for organic.
Really?
But it's mostly just like, if you have this and you react it with this, the product's this, memorize it. So, like, it's not, like, hard, but it's a lot to remember.
Yeah.
And I think that was
in a week?
In, like, 2 or 3 weeks, yeah.
Damn,
but I mean, like, you go over it concurrently, but, like, it's still, like, there's a lot of different, like, if this does this and you want to do something else, you can't do that. You have to do it, like, a different way.
Interesting.
So you had to memorize all those different rules that, like, so that was probably, like, the most memorable thing, and I just remember hating it. And then, obviously, the grade reflected it, but I didn't like having to put all those hours into studying something I wasn't enjoying.
And the thing about, like, no disrespect to, like, chemistry or biology, but a lot of it, as an undergrad at least, is just memorization. Whereas, like, physics, and I feel like a lot of programming with, like, computer science, stuff like that, it's not so much about memorization. And maybe that's the one perk of, like, some of the more social sciences is you have to kind of come into the situation or whatever problem you're doing and do it that way. So, like, for physics, you're going to be doing math, like that math problem, but it might be completely different. You might memorize the formula, but as far as, like, what numbers you need to use, what formula you use, it, you know, changes. As with, like, computer science, you have to figure out which best to use for, you know,
like, languages and stuff like
exactly.
that. I also like the sort of thought process behind computer science, because it's very analytical. It's very, like, you make, like, I'm still, like, very, very new, so, like, I'm sorry if this sounds like I know what I'm talking. I don't.
You know, it's kind of actually funny. We're both freshmen right now.
Yeah,
again, we're literally both
freshmen standing.
I'm, like,
juniors.
I'm
right
at the base of the physics level. You're at the base of computer science, but we're like, oh yeah, it's
like
fucking
this
cool.
is sick, bro.
Yeah.
But at least you know, like, that's how you know.
True.
That's how you
true.
know, you
That's
know.
True.
And that's how you know you truly have your passion for it. But, like, the way I like thinking is, like, this, you write something that I don't know how to describe this, but, like, if this does this, and then you want it to do a bunch of different things, but if there's one error, the whole thing's broken. Yeah. And I think that's kind of cool. And I think the analytical... We're fucking nerds. We're talking about school on a Saturday night.
Conspiracy theories and computer science.
I just feel like we're like those people, like, that you see on cartoons that are literally have the one light bulb dangling around, and we're writing crazy letters to the government. The government, you guys are fucking up. You guys are watching my every move, you know?
Yeah. And, like, it should be clarified, like, I'm, like, as far as, like, physics go, like, I'm actually pretty nervous to do it. I like doing it, and I like learning about it, but I'm bad at math, which is going to be interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
But, like, it's something I like learning. It might take me longer to learn certain math functions because maybe that's what my brain thinks about, but it's the feeling of being able to solve a problem that you weren't able to solve before, or get it on the first try, like, through, like, you, like, click an answer, and it's, like, right on the first try, you're like, oh, fuck. Math boner right there, you know.
I always love that the sort of school high you get whenever you like you get to get A on a test in college and you're like, fuck yes, like, oh.
And I feel like we're
so hyped.
You and I are kind of both people who, like, we're not really like, at least I'm not the best student. Like,
no, like I'm not.
I think we're both pretty smart, but like we're not like the way that school is structured is kind of difficult because you have to adhere your knowledge to the way a school wants it formatted. So.
That's like some of the problems. Like we can go talk about the politics in this, but like that's some of the problems with formal education, you know.
Yeah.
And like it's very like the structure of it doesn't adhere to everybody, and it sort of punishes those who don't like that sort of learning style.
Yeah.
To be fair, we're not like 1.4 like stupid kids. Like, you know, that's not stupid. That's the wrong word. But I mean, we're not like 1.4 GPA type.
Oh, my kids. GPA. If that actually reflected my intelligence, which I hope it doesn't somehow. I mean, I guess it technically does. Then yeah, I should not be doing physics. I mean, it's not like horrible. Like I'm definitely still above like a 3, but that's not great, you know.
Like there's always room to improve.
But both of ours, like if both of our majors, if we get like above a 3, we're doing good.
We're set in stone.
Yeah.
That's the problem because like these majors in school are so fucking difficult that like. If you're above a 3.0, you're doing all right. Like, you're doing pretty good for yourself. But then there's people that are in, like, psych and have, like, 4.0s, and they're like, yeah, what's up? Like, look at me. Yeah, and it's just like, come on, dude.
You wrote one paper, took one test, and it was all over stuff you just had to look up in a book, you know? Yeah. But no shade. No shade. No big shade being thrown. But it's school, college is more structured towards that.
If you're thinking about going to college, a little bit more Ty Lopez for you. If you're thinking about going to college... There was a quote that I heard that was like, if you know what you want to do in life and it requires a formal education, then go to school. But if you know what you want to do in life and it doesn't require a formal education, don't go to school. Like just chase that dream. Like after your 9 to 5, then work on that. You know what I mean? So like that company or whatever you want to build after your 9 to 5 job, when it starts making money, then you drop the 9 to 5. And that's sort of the thought process I've always had. When like going to school and stuff like that, I think of school as my 9 to 5, and like when I do the podcast or like stuff like this, like stuff that really interests me outside of school. Even like school is starting to interest me more.
That's like I actually commend you a lot for like going off with this podcast because I know like Clayton and like a couple of people are like, oh, like podcast, like when you're like starting out,
like dude.
It's hard though.
They think of you as a joke, Yeah, it's like a joke.
It's kind of like quote Childish Gambino. He says, like. I don't know if anybody, like, you guys know Childish Gambino, but, like, the rapper versus, like, the actor, and Donald Glover himself is more of, like, a shy, kind of, like, intellect kind of type of person. So when he goes to, like, a group of friends that he has, and he's like, yo, I got a mixtape, everybody's like, haha, that's fantastic, you know?
That's like the 4.0 chemical engineer kid saying, yo, I got a mixtape. Like,
yeah, exactly.
And, like, that sort of scale.
Everybody, like, laughs about it, but, like, it's cool that you
spread yourself out. You spread yourself out.
Everybody's got a hobby,
I think it's really interesting. But we're sitting at about 55 minutes. This is by far the longest episode that I've done so far. So
I bet that'll be a recurring theme for everyone you have with like another person because there's more.
Like there's a conversation.
Yeah.
But you have anything else that you think we should address?
Don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs, kids. If you have any like conflicting opinions, this reminds me. Excuse me. If you have any conflicting opinions or anything like do you think that we didn't really go in enough on, be sure to leave it in the comments. I really like hearing from other people. Like the best feeling in the world with these podcasts is when I get a text message like 5 hours after it's uploaded and saying like, that was a good episode, listen to the whole thing, but I like the way you did this, but work this in.
Yeah,
I love the constructive criticism, so keep that coming, guys. All the likes and like all the like the views on the videos have really like motivated me. Pretty much just to end the episode, I would just want to thank everybody that's listened to the first episode because it took off. I mean, it's not huge, but I mean, it's taken off a little bit more than I expected. I mean, like 50 plus views on a first episode when I was just like hey, this is the podcast. I'm gonna start talking into a microphone. Like, check it out if you're interested in what I think about.
When you did your first podcast, did you actually even have the microphone?
Yeah, I had the.
Okay,
I just had it. It was just me, just talking like this. The audio levels were a little bit better, but yeah.
That was the one where you introduced with the
yeah, the rap horn. But yeah, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, this is the first installment. I hope to do all the other ones on YouTube. So if you are a SoundCloud listener, be sure to check out the YouTube version. It has Manatees, it has Patrick's, it's gonna have me. It's gonna be sick. So be sure to like and I hate to sound like so shit. I talked about this in the last podcast.
Hit that like button and
smash that like button, guys. 50,000 likes on this video.
If you guys would be so kind and hit the subscribe or something.
What's up, guys?
It's Eric here.
But yeah, be sure to like the video. Be sure to subscribe for more content. We're gonna be coming out with the Tuesday podcast, and then the Thursday, and then the Sunday, then the Tuesday for the foreseeable future. So be sure to subscribe so that make sure you get notifications or whatever whenever I upload a new podcast. So I would just like to say thank you guys so much for listening. Once again, this is Patrick.
Yep, and I'd like to say thank you, Eric, for having me on, and hopefully I didn't fuck your show up too bad.
Hopefully, yeah, this was a really interesting episode. Hopefully the audio levels aren't too fucked up. Anyway, yeah, we're going to be signing off. I'd like to thank you guys so much for listening, and be sure to check out Tuesday's episode. Catch you guys later.